I'm Edward Herrera. I am with the Department of Evangelization in the Archdiocese of Baltimore. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Father Erik Arnold, who was a longtime pastor at Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Ellicott City. And now, for about the last year, he has been the pastor at St. John in Severna Park. So welcome, Father Erik. Thanks for your time to speak today,
hmm
especially in the
Yeah.
craziness of parish life right now. um,
You're welcome.
and I wanted to chat with you a little bit. Just I found that pretty much immediately you all were streaming masses, you were doing Eucharistic adoration online, and these sorts of things, which were just great to see so quickly happening there at the parish. And I wanted to ask you, particularly because it seemed like the video quality was good, but it was evident that you guys were doing it in house too, which was I think a good thing and just moving forward very fast. And I wanted to ask you. With regards to other parishes, some of your brother priests, parish ministers that say, there's so many other masses that are being streamed online. There's bishops, there's national speakers who are streaming their masses online. So why should I, at our local parish, be streaming our mass? Like, what benefit is that to our people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest benefit is that we have a community here already of parishioners and families that know one another. And yeah, you can stream Bishop Barron's Mass, which is going to be beautiful, and there's going to be good preaching. But when a parish streams Mass and attempts to kind of go out in a live stream way that way, it really gives people a chance to stay connected in some way as a parish community. And we've noticed that here. The only platform that we're currently using to stream anything is Facebook, because we have a pretty good following there already. But during the Mass, parishioners are putting up comments with prayers, praying along, and saying Amen. And so there's to the extent that you can have an online community, that's happening, and I think that's the great benefit and the reason why a parish would want to try to do something now, even though, like you said, there are a thousand other options. But people belong to your parish family. What can we do to help them stay connected to the community during these times?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, and I totally get that. It's been neat for me to see how many people are tuning in to those streamed masses at our local parishes. That I can't imagine there would be that many people at a daily mass at all of these parishes. But it's amazing that folks are tuning in. I guess a question I would have for you is, as you were getting going with this, what are maybe 3 tips that you could give to a parish that's saying, so I have an iPhone or I've got an Android phone, and what do I do now? Like, we'll have some technical tips too for people, but just 3 tips that you feel might be helpful, kind of jumping in.
Yeah, good. That's a good question. I think the first thing would be just keep it simple. As you said, we all have some kind of a smartphone, and here at St. John's, that's what we're doing. It's just phone with a tripod and with a holder for your phone on the tripod, and we're not using any other external mics or anything like that. So the quality of what you can get off of a smartphone these days is going to be a perfect place to start. So I would say, keep it simple. And um, if you don't have a Facebook page, great. This is a perfect time to start it. People are hungry, and they're going to start following you. But that would be the first thing, is just keep it simple and don't feel like, well, if I can't do it Hollywood production level quality, then we're not going to do it. Just put that out of your head. A simple smartphone and a tripod is going to be plenty to get things going.
Great, great.
Um, then I think with that, like a second tip would be, and this is going to sound really practical, but make sure that they can see you and they can hear you. And I think so. When you're setting up your phone with the camera for the shot, just know how far you can move to the left and to the right, I mean, just really basic things. Make sure that you're staying in the shot, whether it's at the ambo that you've set up or at the altar. And also just like use like simple, basic photo stuff that you already know. Like don't shoot directly into the sun.
Right.
You know, I mean, so make sure that people can see you. And part of that same thing again would be the devices that people are going to be streaming through are going to be their tablets, their laptops, or their smart TVs. All of those are in landscape orientation. So when you shoot, it's probably generally it's a good idea to keep your phone in landscape mode.
Right.
It's the most comfortable for people to watch. It's what's going to show up the best when your parishioners are watching it. And then in terms of people hearing you, you're probably going to have to speak a little bit more loudly than you do when you're at church with the microphone on. And that just takes a little bit of getting used to. So, but that would be, I think, the second tip is just making sure that the people can see you and they can hear you. And with that, do a test video. You know, I've seen a lot of guys like Brother Priest on Facebook that are trying this out for the first time. And all they're doing is with their first shot, they're just saying, this is a test video, pay no attention. I just need to see if I know what I'm doing. And so like everyone's going to be all the happier that you did a test video and the first mass was a little more prayerful than trying it out for the very first time cold with a mass. So here's the third tip, and this is not even on the tech side of it all, but when a priest is celebrating mass live stream, pray and preach well. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, no amount of fancy equipment, no amount of good lighting or fancy graphics or multiple cameras is going to be able to make up for or to touch what happens when a priest prays well and preaches with passion. And see, that's the part of it that we are most in control of ourselves. You can have a relatively low production quality, I think, but if you're engaging the people that are listening and watching as you open up the gospel and you're praying with fervor and with zeal and with a love for your people, that is going to go so much farther than having lots of fancy camera angles. So, you know, I think, but when you do that, one thing that's a struggle, I think, for us, like I definitely have seen for myself, is when we preach and pray that way, a lot can get lost in the transmission. Like when people come to Mass in church, they pick up on all of the nuances of your body language and all of that. And you can communicate an awful lot that way. When you live stream a Mass, a lot of it just kind of gets flattened out. So I think when we're preaching and praying, we need to kind of give that much more over to it to really let the passion from our own heart out. So keeping
Awesome.
it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure they can hear you and preach and pray well.
No, those are good. Those are good tips, and I guess probably along with the preaching and praying well, I was my family was live streaming a mass this Sunday and trying to pray it together, and it was it was well done for a very kind of simple mass. But I guess my question with it would be, how can you, as a celebrant, how can you try to really engage the people and the congregation, so to speak, at home better, so to enable them to have time to respond and some of those types of things, because it's tricky if you're saying it by yourself or, you know, maybe with a deacon or something like that. So do you have any thoughts on that, on how to kind of pacing and those types of things when you're doing it?
Well, you know, I would just say, one, you that there are people along with you, even if you don't see them. And so keeping a rhythm, a pace, and kind of a cadence to your prayers that allows them and really sends the message that you want them to be praying along. If you just rush through it and just crank through it and don't even leave them time to respond, the message they're going to get is, Father wants us to watch this Mass, not to participate in it.
Yeah.
So deliberately leaving time for the people to make their responses. Obviously, that's going to be much easier if you have a concelebrant with you, like we do here at St. John's, or if you have a seminarian who's able to be there and serve. That's easier. If you're by yourself, you've got to take it slower. Then I think also giving your people back at home the resources that they need to pray along with it. There are a lot of people that already make use of things like Magnificat, and they have the order and the flow of the Mass, but not everyone has that. This past Sunday, we had sent out a PDF to the parish that had all of the Mass parts in it, including some of the prayers that the priest says privately to himself as he's praying Mass. You know, you wouldn't believe the comments I got back from parishioners saying it was so nice to be able to pray through everything. And, you know, when we're by ourselves, like, I know the creed, but if you ask me to say the creed cold by myself, you know, the brain gets stuck. So giving them the
Is
order
that
and the
the
flow of the Mass.
Nicene or the Apostles, or what are we doing here? Yeah, yeah.
Right, like I messed that up in the Rosary. You know, I'm going to probably mess it up by myself if I'm trying to lead it live stream. So I think that would be an important thing. Here's something else. At the start of the Mass, just encourage them to kind of make their intention. You know, like, you know, you're choosing to join us. You know, what are the prayers that you're bringing to the Lord today? What's your own intention? Who are you offering your celebration of the Mass up for today? At the offertory, even as the gifts are being prepared, invite the people to put their lives there on the altar. You know, it's that beautiful, real, you know, traditional theology that we put our lives on the altar with the Lord Jesus to be offered up to the Father. So there's some stuff like that during the Mass that we can do to remind them that we want them to be praying with us and not just watching it.
Yeah. No, that's
And
so,
then,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. That's great.
well, and then a huge part for us at home now is at communion time, give them time and lead them in that prayer, the act of spiritual communion. So gotta lead them well that way and show them how they can be praying along with it.
Awesome. Awesome. Those are good tips on that. Have you found there have been any specific challenges you've been experiencing? I mean, I know you've kind of mentioned some of those, but are there any ones specifically to kind of be aware of or be attentive to?
Yeah, well, you know, like one really obvious one is technology always has glitches. And so I, you know, it just, so just being attentive to what may end up happening with your phone or with the Wi-Fi network. There are going to be things like that at that level that, you know, that are always going to seemingly kind of get in the way. But some of that we can make sure that we take care of ahead of time. So, you know, if the Wi-Fi is so weak in the spot that you would normally celebrate Mass, but it's stronger somewhere else, I mean, maybe for the sake of getting the Mass out there online, you set up a simple room near stronger Wi-Fi or near a better cell signal. That's one thing. Another thing I kind of mentioned already, kind of one glitch that we've had is just making sure that everyone who's on the altar knows the prayers. It's a little bit awkward when you're the only one saying the people's responses. And even though you know them, sometimes, you know, in that moment, we forget them. Here's another one for the people at home. What we found is we've been live streaming our daily Mass at 8:30. And so when we first started it, I thought, well, this is great. Like right at 8:30, where I'm going to hit that live button, and we're just going to be really super punctual. Only what we discovered was that when we go live with it, it takes people a few minutes to find it in their feed or to go to our Facebook page and pull it up and get it going. So I joked the other day at one of our Masses, and I said, you know what, this is really funny. The number of views on our Facebook Mass, like there are a lot of you that are coming to Mass late online. I can see it. But then what they told me was, Father, like we're trying to pray on time, but it takes us a few minutes to kind of get it up and going. So someone had said, can you just get the live stream going a few minutes earlier?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a really good idea, and that's what we've been doing. So we get the live stream going early, and then we're just as quiet as we can be, and then at 8:30, then we go ahead and begin Mass. So making sure the people at home are able to be connected already is a glitch that we discovered, and kind of overcome just by getting it just a few minutes before the start
Nice,
time.
nice. And I
Yeah.
guess another question: how do you like? There are a lot of things I think that our parishes are trying to do right now because there's just so much to be done, so many different types of needs to be met by parishioners. And how do you like? How would you see the priority of streaming the mass relative to all of those other things? How do you all take that, right? I mean, I know you can't say, oh, well, this is what you ought to do, but how do you all prioritize that?
Yeah. Well, I think all of us are going to be celebrating Mass daily anyway, and we have the Mass intentions that are have already been made. So we're going to be doing that anyway. So I think adding on a little bit of the extra time to get it set up and to do it, I think it's worth the investment since again we're going to be celebrating Mass anyway. But what I found, we chose to do it at 8:30, the same time as our regular parish mass, our daily mass, because it gives people some rhythm and it
Yeah.
gives people a little bit of normalcy in the midst of just everything that is not normal right now. And I think I would not discount the blessing that that can be to our parishioners. Anything that we can do that reminds them that our parish is still alive, we're still going, it's just a little bit different. There are huge blessings that come out of that. So I would definitely put it up at a little bit of at a higher level, um, just because it is such an important, powerful way for us to be staying connected and leading our people in prayer.
Oh, thank you. That's good. I mean, you're speaking my heart right now. So, I guess the other kind of last question for you: have you seen it bear fruit for your community during this time? And I know it's only been a week, I think, since a lot of people have been at home and trying to kind of adapt with this kind of this new normal, so to speak. But have you seen it bear fruit?
Yeah, and I guess I'll just go by the comments that have come to us, either emailed or even on Facebook, which is just a lot of the families that would normally have come to daily mass are grateful that they can stay connected. And so for them, there's that consistency. But also, we have a lot of parishioners who are older, who are homebound, whose schedules do not allow them to make it to church for daily mass. And so they've been asking, even once we kind of get everything back to normal and this is all done, would the parish consider still finding a way to stream mass for those of us who are home now? That's that we wouldn't have been able to before. So that's been one really really big fruit of it is just realizing, wow, we are able to reach more people this way. And granted, I know it is not the same as actually being physically present in church, but we're able to reach more parishioners
Yeah.
than we had before. So that's been a real blessing. The other thing is for Father Michael and I daily to have a way of just trying to reassure, to comfort, and to lead our people through these days, to be able to connect with them daily has been a huge, huge blessing for us, and I think, and hopefully, for them that way.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I am just so grateful for your time. I'm sure your thoughts are going to be very helpful for a lot of pastors and parish ministers trying to figure out how to do this and think through it a little bit. So I'm just grateful for your time and just continued blessings on your work there at St. John Severna Park.
Edward, thank you. You too, and for you and your family and for the diocese.
Thank you.